When my 8-year-old son came running home crying, clutching a woman's wallet, I thought he'd found some lost purse from the rainstorm. But then he said something that froze my blood. "Mom," he sobbed, "she's lying in the ditch. And she looks just like you." My heart stopped. I took the wallet from his shaking hands. It was soaked and muddy. Inside, there was a driver's license. Clara Evans. The photo made my knees weaken. The woman in the picture wasn't similar to me. She was me. Same brown hair, same eyes, even the faint scar under my chin. I stared at it, trying to breathe. "Ethan, where did you find this?" "By the old creek road," he said, his voice trembling. "She's hurt, Mom. I think she's dead." That was the moment everything changed. If you're still watching, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. You won't believe what I found next. My name is Claire Reynolds. I'm 35 years old, a 5th grade teacher in Cedar Falls, and a single mother trying to rebuild a life after losing my husband 3 years ago. Since Michael's accident, it's been just me and my son, Ethan. He's my world. The reason I keep going when mornings feel heavy and nights feel endless. Our home is small, quiet, and filled with little things that keep us steady. Morning pancakes, bedtime stories, and the sound of rain on the kitchen window while I grade papers. It isn't perfect, but it's safe. And after everything we've been through, safe was all I ever wanted. That night felt no different at first. The rain had been falling steadily for hours. The smell of chicken soup filled the kitchen, and the soft hum of the radio made the house feel calm. I remember wiping the counter and glancing out the window to check on Ethan, who was still outside, playing near the edge of the yard. "Don't stay out too long, sweetheart," I called. "Dinner's almost ready." "Okay, Mom," he shouted back, splashing in a puddle. A few minutes later came the knock, hard and frantic. When I opened the door, there he was, crying so hard his breath hitched. His clothes were soaked through, and his hands clutched that wallet like it was something dangerous. "Mom, please," he said through tears. "She's in the ditch. She looks just like you." I remember kneeling in front of him, trying to steady my voice. "What do you mean she looks like me?" "Exactly like you," he said. "Even your red coat." My red coat. The same one hanging on the rack by the door. I'd worn it the day before. The world started spinning. I flipped the license over again, searching for some difference, anything that made sense. But it was identical. Even the signature looked like mine. I could feel my heart pounding in my throat. My rational mind told me there had to be a reasonable answer, some wild coincidence, maybe identity theft. But a deeper instinct whispered that something was wrong, something I couldn't explain. I grabbed Ethan by the shoulders. "Listen to me carefully. You stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone unless it's me." He shook his head, crying harder. "Don't go, Mom. What if it's you? What if something bad happens?" His words hit me straight in the chest. I wanted to promise him everything would be fine, but even I didn't believe that. Still, I had to know. I kissed his forehead. "I'll be okay, baby. I just need to see." I grabbed my keys and flashlight, slipped into my raincoat, and stepped outside. The air was cold and heavy, the kind that bites through your clothes. As I walked to the car, I could feel Ethan's eyes watching me from the window, his small face pressed against the glass. The drive to Willow Creek Road was silent, except for the wipers smearing the rain across the windshield. Every flash of lightning lit up the road ahead, twisting the trees into dark shapes that seemed to move. The wallet sat on the passenger seat beside me, the photo of my own face staring back like a warning. By the time I reached the bridge, my hands were shaking. Headlights cut through the fog, and I saw it, a flash of red near the ditch. I pulled over, my breath catching in my chest. The rain hit my face as I stepped out and shone the flashlight down the embankment, and there she was, a woman lying motionless in the mud, wearing my red coat, my reflection in another body. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The wind answered for her, carrying only the sound of rain and my heartbeat. Rain poured harder as I stood frozen on the roadside, staring at the woman in the ditch. Her hair was tangled with leaves, her clothes soaked through, and the red coat clung to her body like a second skin. For a long moment, I couldn't move. My brain refused to process what I was seeing. Every detail of her face, the curve of her jaw, the small scar under her chin, the faint freckle near her lip. It was all mine. It wasn't just resemblance. It was identical. I slid down the muddy slope, my shoes slipping in the wet soil. My flashlight shook in my hand as I knelt beside her. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" No response. Her skin was cold, pale against the beam of light. I pressed my fingers to her wrist. There was a faint pulse. Relief hit me like air after drowning. She was alive. Barely, but alive. I reached for my phone, my hands trembling, and dialed 911. The rain made it hard to hear, and my voice came out shaky. "There's a woman hurt near Willow Creek Road. She's unconscious. Please, hurry." The dispatcher asked for my name. I hesitated before answering, afraid of how strange it would sound. "Claire Reynolds," I said finally. I turned back to the woman. Her breathing was shallow but steady. I didn't want to move her, but the water was rising in the ditch, trickling around her legs. I had to at least get her to higher ground. I slipped my arms under her shoulders and tried to lift, but she was heavier than she looked. My muscles screamed from the effort. Her head fell against my chest as I dragged her towards the embankment. For a second, our faces were inches apart. It was like looking into a mirror, one that was alive but broken. As I pulled her up, her eyelids fluttered. I froze. Her lips moved. At first, I thought she was whispering nonsense, but then I heard it clearly. "Don't. Let them find him." I nearly dropped her. Who? Who are you talking about?" But her head lolled to the side again, and she went still. A chill ran through me that had nothing to do with the cold rain. I looked around, scanning the empty road. The wind howled through the trees, and somewhere far off, I thought I heard an engine. Headlights flickered at the far end of the bridge. I waved my arm, thinking it might be the ambulance. But the car didn't stop. It slowed. Then another vehicle appeared behind it, an SUV with tinted windows and no license plates. Something about it made my stomach twist. Instinct screamed at me to hide. I dragged the woman behind a cluster of bushes, mud coating my hands and knees. The SUV rolled to a stop, exactly where I had parked my car. Two men got out, both wearing dark coats, their faces shadowed by caps. They didn't look like paramedics. One of them shone a flashlight over the road, the beam slicing through rain and fog. "Anything?" one of them said. "Tracks," the other replied. "She was here." I held my breath, clutching the woman tighter against me. She groaned softly, and I pressed my hand over her mouth to keep her quiet. My heart pounded so loud I was sure they'd hear it. After a moment, one of the men crouched down near the ditch, picking something up, the wallet, the one Ethan had brought home. He turned it over in his gloved hand and muttered, "Reynolds." My stomach dropped. They knew my name. I didn't wait. I half carried, half dragged the woman through the trees toward a narrow path that led back to the road's curve. Branches whipped my face, rain soaking my hair and clothes. I could still hear their voices calling out behind me. She couldn't have gone far. Find her before the cops show up. Who were they talking about? Me or her? Maybe both. When I reached the car, my hands were shaking so hard, I fumbled the keys. I finally got the door open and laid the woman across the back seat. Her pulse was weak, but she was still breathing. The headlights from the SUV swept across the trees nearby, searching. I ducked low in the driver's seat and turned the ignition. The engine roared to life. Too loud, too sudden. The flashlight swung toward the sound. I hit the gas. The tires spun in the mud, then caught traction, sending gravel flying as I sped down the winding road. My heart pounded with every turn. In the rearview mirror, I saw the SUV pull onto the road behind me, its headlights gaining fast. "Hold on," I whispered to the unconscious woman, as if she could hear me. "Whoever you are, I'm not letting them take you." The rain blurred everything. The world outside the windshield was a mix of darkness, headlights, and trees flashing by. I took a sharp turn and saw a small wooden sign ahead, an abandoned cabin trail. I veered onto it, tires screeching, praying the SUV wouldn't see me. The path was narrow and rough, branches scraping the sides of the car. I killed the headlights, and kept rolling forward until the road disappeared behind a curtain of trees. Then I stopped, breathing hard, my whole body trembling. For a moment, all I could hear was the ticking of the engine and the woman's shallow breaths. I turned to look at her again. Her lips were pale, her face ghostly under the dim dome light. Then I saw it, a necklace around her neck, small and silver, my necklace, the same one Michael had given me on our wedding day. I reached out with shaking fingers and touched it. She stirred slightly, whispering again, "They know. You're not supposed to exist." I pulled my hand back, my blood running cold. Outside, the faint hum of an engine passed on the main road and faded into the distance. I was alone with a woman who looked exactly like me and who might be the reason I wasn't supposed to be alive. The rain finally began to ease, but the silence that followed was heavier than before. The forest around the cabin trail was dark, still and alive with the faint crackle of thunder moving farther away. My hands gripped the steering wheel, white-knuckled, while my heart refused to slow down. In the back seat, the woman, my double, lay motionless except for the faint rise and fall of her chest. Her face looked drained of color, her lips slightly parted. I couldn't sit there forever. The SUV could circle back any minute. Whoever those men were, they weren't there to help. And if they were looking for her, it was only a matter of time before they realized who else they'd find. Me. I took a shaky breath and reached for my phone, but the signal bar showed nothing. No service. Just endless gray. My eyes darted to the woman again. The necklace around her neck caught a glint from the dome light. It was identical to the one Michael had given me on our wedding day. A small silver pendant with a single engraved word on the back. Always. I reached for it, turned it over, and saw the same engraving, same handwriting, same scratch on the corner. My throat tightened. Whoever she was, this wasn't a coincidence. It was personal. I leaned closer, whispering, "Can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open. For a split second, I thought I was looking at my reflection in a mirror. Her gaze darted around the car before settling on me, wide with panic. Where are we?" she breathed, her voice hoarse. "You're safe," I said, though I wasn't sure it was true. "You're hurt. We're off the main road. I called 911, but they haven't come yet." She shook her head weakly. "No police. They can't find us. If they do, they'll take you too." Her words made my stomach twist. "What do you mean, take me? Who are you?" She stared at me for a moment, like she was deciding whether to tell me the truth. Then her hand lifted slightly and grabbed my wrist. Her skin was ice cold. "My name is Claire Reynolds," she whispered. I froze. "That's not possible." Her voice cracked. "You're not supposed to be here." The sound of an engine far off on the road broke the silence. I turned toward the windshield, every muscle tense. Through the trees, faint beams of light moved across the distant fog. Someone was still looking. I reached over, turned off the car's interior light, and whispered, "Stay quiet." We both waited, barely breathing. The headlights passed once, twice, then disappeared. The sound faded away, leaving only the quiet tapping of rain on metal. I turned back to her. "You need to tell me what's going on. Who are those men? Why do you have my face, my necklace, my name?" She swallowed hard. "It started years ago. You were part of something you never knew about. They took pieces of you. They made me." I shook my head, anger cutting through fear. "That doesn't make sense. You're saying they made you? Like what? Some kind of clone?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Not just me. Others too. We were part of a project called Mirror. They used your DNA after the accident. You weren't supposed to survive." My chest tightened, breath coming fast. "After the accident? The crash," she said. "Your husband died instantly. You were declared dead. But you weren't. They rebuilt what they could, changed your records, gave you back your life. But it wasn't supposed to happen this way." I could barely process her words. My body felt numb, like the ground had fallen out from under me. "You're lying." She looked at me with desperate sincerity. "Think about it. The hospital you woke up in. Did you ever see your medical report? Did anyone ever explain how you survived? You were unconscious for 2 weeks. They erased everything. You're not the only one who lived." Her voice trembled, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Real, human fear. I gripped the steering wheel to stop my hands from shaking. My mind raced back to that night years ago. The screeching tires, the blinding headlights, the way I woke up in a sterile white room with no memory of how I got there. The doctor told me it was a miracle, but what if it wasn't? Before I could speak, she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a folded photograph. It was damp, but still clear enough to see. A group of people in lab coats standing beside a white chamber, and in the middle of them was me. My face, my body, connected to wires and machines. I escaped, she said. They were going to destroy me, but I had to find you first. They can't let two of us exist. My heart thudded so loud I could barely hear her next words. They'll come for you, Claire. For Ethan, too. The mention of my son made everything inside me snap back to focus. Fear turned into something else. Instinct, fire, resolve. If you're telling the truth, then we're both in danger. But you're not dying here, and no one is taking my son. I reached for the ignition. We're getting out of here. She tried to sit up, weak but determined. You don't understand. You can't run. They'll track you. They always do. I met her eyes. Then they'll have to find me first. I pressed my foot on the gas, tires crunching over gravel as I turned the car around. The forest seemed to close in, the night thicker and darker than before. Every bump in the road made her wince, but I didn't slow down. I kept driving toward the one person I needed to protect, Ethan. No matter what this woman was, or what truth she carried, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to let anyone touch my son. And if they were watching, I was done running. That was the moment I stopped being afraid and started fighting back. The drive back toward town felt endless. The rain had stopped, but fog rolled thick across the road like a curtain, trying to hide the world ahead. The woman in the back seat, my mirror image, drifted in and out of consciousness, her breathing shallow. My mind was spinning, every word she'd said echoing in my head. They cloned you. You weren't supposed to survive. They'll come for your son. It sounded insane, like something out of a nightmare, yet the terror in her voice had been too real to ignore. As I turned onto Maple Lane, my heart clenched. Our house sat dim under the streetlight, every window dark except one, Ethan's. I could see his nightlight glowing faintly, a small orange flicker of comfort. I pulled into the driveway and cut the engine. The world fell silent, except for the ticking of the cooling hood. I turned toward the woman. We're here. Stay quiet. I have to check on my son. She nodded weakly. Be careful. They might already know. I didn't want to believe her, but the fear crawling up my spine wouldn't let me brush it off. I left the car running low on the hill and crept toward the house. The front door was locked, just as I'd told Ethan. I tapped softly, whispering, "It's me, sweetheart." A few seconds later, the chain slid and he cracked the door open. His face lit up with relief. "Mom, you're okay." He wrapped his arms around me, his small body trembling. I held him tight, breathing in the scent of his rain-damp hair, feeling the warmth of life and safety I'd almost lost. "It's all right, baby. Everything's fine now," I whispered, though I knew it wasn't. I shut the door behind us, locked it again, and turned the lights off. "We're going to stay really quiet, okay?" Ethan nodded, his eyes wide. "Did you find her? The lady?" I hesitated. She's hurt, but she's safe. We'll help her soon." As I spoke, a faint hum reached my ears, the low mechanical sound of a car engine idling nearby. My chest tightened. I peeked through the curtains. A dark SUV sat down the street, headlights off, just barely visible through the fog. They'd followed us. I rushed to the window and shut the blinds. My thoughts raced. I needed to keep Ethan safe. I needed to buy time. I went to the kitchen, grabbed my phone, and tried dialing 911 again, but the screen froze before I could press call. No service. "Mom?" Ethan's voice was small. "What's happening?" I forced a smile. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just go to your room and hide under the bed. Take your flashlight, remember?" He nodded and ran down the hallway. I waited until I heard his door close, then looked toward the driveway. The SUV doors opened. 2 figures stepped out, the same men from the bridge. I ran outside to the car and yanked open the back door. The woman struggled to sit up. "They're here, aren't they?" "Yes," I said, my voice shaking. "You have to tell me what they want. Why are they after you? Why me?" Her breathing was ragged. "You're the original. The experiment was meant to replace you, not duplicate. They realized too late that both versions survived. One of us has something they want, something in our blood. I stared at her. In our blood? She nodded weakly. It's genetic memory. They were trying to preserve human consciousness, to control identity. You were their first success. I was the copy. My throat went dry. If you're the copy, why are they hunting you? Because I remember, she whispered. I remember everything they did to you. Before I could respond, a voice called from the darkness. Claire Reynolds, step away from the vehicle. The men were in the yard now, their flashlights cutting through the fog. Panic surged through me, but then something inside me hardened. They weren't taking my son. Not tonight. I grabbed the woman's arm. Can you walk? Barely. Then stay here. If they find me, run. I stepped out, rain still dripping from the eaves, and faced the men. My heart thundered, but I forced my voice steady. What do you want from me? The taller one stepped forward. We're here to fix a mistake. You're not supposed to exist. Then explain why I do, I said, standing my ground. He gave a small, cold smile. We already have one Claire Reynolds. We don't need to. His partner raised something metallic, thin and glowing faintly blue, like a scanning device. I took a step back, my pulse spiking. Suddenly, the woman's voice came from behind me. She's not the one you want. It's me. Before I could stop her, she stumbled out of the car, rain soaking her hair, her face pale and fierce. Let her go. I'm the clone. She's real. She has a child. The men hesitated. One reached for a radio. Confirm which is which. She turned to me, tears mixing with rain. Run, Claire. Take Ethan. Don't stop. I shook my head. I'm not leaving you. You have to. She grabbed my hand and pressed something small into my palm, a silver flash drive smeared with blood. Everything's on here. Proof. It'll protect him if they ever find you. Her eyes met mine, calm now, as if she'd already made peace. Tell him, we were meant to love, not to be owned. Before I could speak, one of the men stepped forward, and the woman lunged toward him. The sound that followed split the night, a sharp electric crack, bright light flashing across her body. She fell instantly, motionless in the mud. Stop! I screamed, but they didn't even look at me. One turned his device toward me next. I dropped to my knees, clutching the flash drive, expecting pain. But then, from the house, Ethan's voice rang out. Mom! The distraction was enough. I threw a handful of gravel at the men, then ran toward the back door. My feet slipped on the wet grass, but I didn't stop until I was inside, slamming it shut and locking it. Ethan ran into my arms, shaking. It's okay, I whispered, holding him close. We're okay. Outside, the sound of engines roared, then faded into the distance. When I dared to look again, the SUV was gone, and so was the woman. In my hand, the flash drive felt warm, almost alive. I didn't know what was on it, but I knew one thing. The woman who died tonight saved us both, and as I held my son tighter, I whispered a silent promise to the woman who shared my face. They'll never find him, not while I'm still breathing. The following morning, sunlight crept through the blinds, gentle and golden, a sharp contrast to the chaos that had consumed the night. The house was still, almost too quiet, except for the steady ticking of the clock on the wall. I sat at the kitchen table, holding a cup of coffee I hadn't touched. My hands were steady now, but my heart wasn't. Ethan was still asleep in his room, curled up beneath his blanket, clutching the flashlight he'd used to hide under his bed. I watched him earlier, his chest rising and falling peacefully, and I thanked God that he was safe, that somehow we both were. But deep down, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. The flash drive sat in front of me on the table, small, silver, innocent-looking, yet it carried the weight of everything that had happened. It was the last piece of the woman who had died to save us. My reflection, my other self. Every time I looked at it, I saw her face in the rain, the way she'd whispered, "Tell him we were meant to love, not to be owned." I didn't know who she truly was or what exactly she meant, but those words clung to me like a haunting echo. After the men disappeared, I'd stayed awake until dawn, too afraid to sleep. Every sound outside made me flinch. Every car that passed on the wet road sent my heart racing. But the longer the silence stretched, the more it felt like they were gone, or at least that they had what they came for: the body, the evidence, the clone. Or maybe they just needed to make sure I understood the message, that I was being watched. I turned the flash drive over in my hand. Part of me wanted to destroy it, to throw it into the river and forget any of this ever happened. But another part, the mother, the teacher, the woman who had lived through loss and fear, knew I couldn't. If there was truth in that drive, it wasn't just mine to bury. It was proof that someone, somewhere, had decided to play God. I went to my desk and plugged it into my laptop. The screen flickered, and for a second, I thought it wouldn't work. Then a single folder appeared. It was labeled Project Mirror. Inside were hundreds of files, documents, lab reports, video clips. My stomach twisted as I clicked one open. On the screen, I saw a sterile white room, 2 hospital beds, machines humming softly. In one bed, a woman hooked to IVs and monitors. Me, my body. The timestamp read the night of Michael's crash. The second bed held another woman, pale, motionless, her features slowly forming under the glow of cold blue lights. The image blurred, then shifted to a close-up of a man in a lab coat. His voice was calm, professional. Subject C has survived physical reconstruction. Memory retention is unstable but sufficient for behavioral replication. Genetic source identified as Reynolds. Claire. Terminate secondary model upon stabilization. Terminate. I stopped the video, my breath shaking. My throat burned, my eyes stung, but I couldn't look away. I clicked another clip, this time security footage from the facility. The woman who looked like me, her, running down a hallway, alarms blaring, clutching a bag to her chest. Behind her, the same men I saw last night chased her, shouting orders. She burst through a door and into the night. That was how she found me. She'd been running to warn me. I closed the laptop and sat back, my hands trembling. The truth was worse than I imagined. I had been the experiment. The accident that killed Michael wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something none of us consented to. They took my DNA, my memories, my body, and tried to make a copy. They succeeded twice, and one of us wasn't supposed to survive. I walked to Ethan's room and stood by the door. He stirred, mumbling in his sleep, safe and unaware of the storm that had brushed past our lives. I wanted to tell him everything, but I couldn't, not now. He was just a child. He deserved normal mornings, school lunches, bedtime stories, not the burden of secrets that could destroy us both. As I watched him, I made myself a silent promise. I would never run again, but I would be ready. If they ever came back, they would find a mother who knew what she was fighting for. I wasn't a victim anymore. I was a witness, and I would protect my son, even if it meant facing the shadows again. Later that day, a small envelope appeared under my front door. No return address. Inside was a single piece of paper with one line written in neat, familiar handwriting, the same as mine. Keep him away from Willow Creek. They're still watching. I felt a chill run through me. They were still out there. Maybe they always would be, but this time I wasn't afraid. I looked out the window where the morning light caught the reflection in the glass. For a split second, I swore I saw 2 faces instead of one. Maybe that was her. Maybe she wasn't gone, after all. I reached for the flash drive again and tucked it into my pocket. I didn't know where this road would lead, but I knew one thing for certain. Whatever they started, I was going to finish it. Not just for me, but for her. For the woman who shared my face, my name, and my courage. As I watched Ethan wake up and smile sleepily at me, I smiled back. "Good morning, sweetheart," I said softly. "It's a new day. And maybe, just maybe, this time it was my own." If you're still watching, make sure to subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Because stories like this remind us that even the impossible can find us when we least expect it.